Well, good morning, everybody. I'm back again. It's Robert Phoenix for another stirring rendition of 15 Minutes of Flame. And this is the Thorsday edition of 15 Minutes of Flame. And I'll get into the significance of that later today. So, or later in the show. How is everybody? Just going to hang out for a little bit. And we're just going to let people kind of roll on in. It's a little bit overcast, a little cloudy today here in the hill country. And looks like fall is rapidly kind of moving into winter. And there's supposed to be a major front coming down from the north. So are we talking what? We're talking solar minimum, grand solar minimum, possibly. I think we're going to get down into the high 40s here in the evening. So I think that could be a real shock to some of the new crops that are growing here in the backyard. Hopefully they'll be able to weather what happens over the course of the next 72 hours. I think they'll be fine. And they'll be absolutely fine. So let's see. I'm just getting a few things ready for today's show. And I have some interesting updates, especially around Transnistria. So I'm going to give you some Transnistrian updates. And it's the situation there is a lot more perilous than I anticipated. And I'll get into why. Troubling to some degree. And I'll let you know what the details of my Transnistrian peregrinations have amounted to. But I'm just setting up a few things here so that I can have a few interesting things to talk about over the next 60 minutes or so. Getting it all together, doing my best to bring you quality content. All right, let me, I think I got a few things lined up. Let me see if there's any new developments. The bombs were supposed to be dropping yesterday. And for whatever reason, they may have been pumping the brakes on a few things. But we still have the rest of the day today and a debate tonight, which should be, at the very least, interesting. I think the question is, will Biden show up for the debate, and which Biden will show up for the debate? Apparently, there is. Here we go. Oh, this is interesting. Okay, so Steve Bannon says that Joe Biden is now in the witness protection program. Okay, so I think I'll play a little bit of that. But maybe it is more metaphorical than anything else. I'm just trying to get sort of the latest updates in terms of information that is coming across the ticker in real time. What else do we have here? Yeah, which U.S. Senate panel votes on Amy Coney Barrett, and that's happening right now on a Mercury retrograde. How about that? The day of the debate The Senate is moving to vote on Amy Coney Barrett. Holy smokes. We gotta hope that whatever Biden shows up tonight, that this is a topic of conversation. We have a lot to talk about in that area, believe me. And let's see. Da, 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 da. Oh boy. All right. So apparently there's strange footage of Hunter Biden with one of his relatives, young underage relative, for that matter. All right, I'm just putting the finishing touches to today's show. Let's see, what else do we have here? Twitter, we got that. What else do I want to have here? Let's see. Here we go. Okay. Yes. All right. I think that's it. That's where we want to go. All right. Let me check in. Okay. Everything is pretty much set. Have a lot of ground to cover. So let me go through and just see who's all here. We got Michael. What's going on, Michael? PB, Lisa Marie, Misty Minor, Beth Berry. There's Natasha Lloyd. What's going on, cuz? Sandra Rose, Danica Rose. Lil's in the house. JMP Love. New Jersey's trying to find people for not wearing masks. Yep, better get used to that one. Frank Bry, Idaho winter is coming. Yep, here comes the grand solar minimum. Yes, today is Thorsday. Today's Thursday, but it's also Thorsday, and it is Steve Mercer's birthday. Wish the God of Thunder a happy day. A happy birthday in a great new solar year. Steve, thank you for all your help and all your camaraderie and all your goodwill and your great energy and just your all around coolness. I'm so deeply appreciative of you, and thank you so much for helping out in the show, in chat, and just being just a total rock star at the event. And I really appreciate our time together when we hung out together. And I hope you have a wonderful day and an even better year. So let's give it up for Steve Mercer. Thor by the door. Thor's birthday today on Thorsday. Way to go. I am Thursday's child too, by the way. Let's see. 32 degrees. Yikes. That's pretty chilly. 40 should be no problem. I'm thinking. 40s would be okay for the old planties. Yes, a lot of goodwill, a lot of good cheer going in Steve's direction. What is the story about Borat catching Rudy in a compromising position with his underage daughter? I don't know what the story is, but it is quite interesting that all of a sudden Borat is launched onto the stage, isn't it? He now has a new movie coming out. He now has ample press time, and I don't know what the story is, but I do know that Sacha Baron Cohen is a member of a certain intelligence agency, which shall not be named here. And yesterday, when he was on, I showed yesterday when he was on Jimmy Kimmel, where he has a history of letting certain things out in the realm of fiction and comedy, which seem to be probably more true than we might give them credit for, because they're being offered up in a comedic atmosphere. So perhaps when he's trying to do something that is revelatory or news-like, it may not have the same kind of import. One could be reality cloaked in illusion, The other could be illusion cloaked in reality. Welcome to Gemini, the world that we live in. So I don't know what the story is. Rudy Giuliani, no choir boy. I'll tell you that right now. He's no choir boy. But my biggest beef with Rudy Giuliani is the fact that he knows all about 9/11. He knows all about it, and he's right. So they're just going to go along with sort of the traditional narrative on that. That's my biggest beef with the mayor. And he was actually he's a district attorney, and that's how he got into being the mayor of New York. And he made his name for busting the Italian mafia crime syndicate, cleaning up New York. And to this day, I think that was probably a bad idea, right? I think you need a little bit of, how shall we say this, curbside governance, curbside governance, because the mob got wiped out in New York, and there were people who were willing to give him not only the players, but also the vital information in order to try the members of the mafia, people like John Gotti, and he's not the only one. And this certain group wound up benefiting more from this other group no longer being in circulation. So in that regard, Rudy Giuliani was kind of a hired hitman in a lot of ways. And so that's how he made his name. And that's how he got the attention of the people of New York, somebody who could bring law and order to bear in a city where there had been a great degree of crime and violence and neglect, some of which may or may not have been contributed by the mob. Look, and I'm not here to glamorize the mob, okay? But they were actually kind of an essential kind of ingredient in some ways, right? I mean, I think of the mob as being like microbes, and they sort of like eat away at certain things. I mean, that's how like some microbes are actually important, even though you look at them and you say, well, that's kind of disgusting, but they play a function and a role. And it's like in your gut, you've got a biome in your gut, and you need certain things in there to make sure that everything works right. And if you knew that what was in your gut as part of your biome, that was like, helping you out, you might go, oh, gee, really? It's like those little things that live on your eyebrows and basically eat the dust, right? The dust mites on your eyebrows. They eat the dust off your eyebrows. You ever take a look at those things? Look like monsters, but they're there for a reason. They're there for a reason. And it was part of a kind of a greater ecosystem. And so once the mob was removed, now all of a sudden they were monocropping. Somebody was monocropping the rackets and the racketeering in New York City. But it worked out well for Rudy Giuliani. It made him popular, and it made him electable as far as being a mayor goes. And then he continued to move in that direction. Of course, with the gentrification of Times Square, 42nd Street, it went from being pretty sleazy to being like Disneyland, really. The changes under Rudy Giuliani in New York City are epic, really, for a modern American city. Like, you just don't see that. Usually with cities, they start up at one place and they wind up going downhill, a state of entropic decline and decay. But in this case, he was able to do something that no other mayor prior to him had really been able to do. And New York had been in a very steep decline, starting around the time of John Lindsay, when they did the Cloward Piven strategy and began to literally bankrupt the city of New York and make it the target of strikes and a lot of strife and civil unrest, not too unlike what we're experiencing now. So Giuliani brought in things like the Broken Windows program, and for all of his warts, and for this is the Gemini part of him, right? Like in a lot of ways, he really was able to shape New York into probably its greatest manifestation. He had a lot of people help him. You can't do it by yourself, obviously. Huge amounts of money. It became a tourist attraction again. I mean, there was a time, like the first time I went to New York, and it was like 83. I think it was 83. Man, it was fucking dangerous. It was a dangerous place, and there was something to be said about that. It was right. There's something to be said. There's beauty and danger at times. And by the time I went back a second time, my second time it was like 1993 or 4, right around there. I think it's 1993. Man, I had a great time. I don't know who was mayor in 1993, but I had a rocking time in New York City that time, and became a tourist destination, of course, and really shed and transcended a lot of the baggage and the darkness that had plagued the city during the 60s and the 70s. So, you get the good with the bad. And I don't know what's on in the movie, or what Borat supposedly has. Everybody's compromised except for Borat, of course. I'm sure if we really knew what was, rattling around in his closet, we'd understand, maybe to the degree that he might be compromised too. Anyway, I hope I answered your question about Rudy Giuliani in a roundabout way. So there's a lot to cover today, obviously. Where do we want to go? Yeah, so I think Uncle Glenn sent me something. Pretty sure it's Uncle Glenn about New Mexico. State takes steps to stop spread of COVID-19 without closing economy. But they're very extreme. They've moved into this kind of new extreme phase. I don't think I'm going to play the video, but they've moved into this kind of new extreme phase. Here we go. I want to just go through some of the bullet points. Let's just go through some of the bullet points. Because what they're essentially going to move to is they're going to allow the economy to kind of open back up, but the measures in which you can participate in said economy will be extremely rigorous. If a business records 4 rapid responses in 14 days, businesses must close for 2 full weeks. This applies to food and drink establishments, retail establishments, places of lodging, indoor dining rules. Any restaurant that wants to continue indoor dining must complete the New Mexico State Certification Training Program. These businesses have until October. So if you want to have indoor dining, you're going to have to be essentially retrained. Like, you will have to go through not only knowing what the safety protocols will be for your dining establishment, but there's a mindset that goes along with it as well. You're being reshaped in terms of how you're going to be able to practice your business. And that'll be everything from taking down the very pertinent information that could be used for contact tracing. I mean, I'm sure it will be so rigorous that anybody who has any kind of stomach to dine out and kind of eat freely will probably avoid it like the plague. Although my experience with most of humanity at this point is that people will get on their knees and cross the street to experience something like that. Not everybody. Consent to spot testing of employees. Oh. So if you have an employee and somebody rolls in, right, they're going to say, I want to test your dishwasher. Like, you have to stop what your dishwasher is doing, pull them aside, and then have a spot test. It's like a drug test. So you have to consent to that. So if you want to have a restaurant in New Mexico, it could be your waiter, it could be your maitre d', it could be you. you're giving all this power over to the state in order for them to perform a medical procedure at any given time that they want to. All retail spaces must close by 10 p.m. every night. Why? Why is that? Why is that? Does something happen after 10 p.m. with the virus? Does the virus go back to the virus hotel at 10 p.m.? Or does the virus come out in more numbers? It's like, okay, you guys are closed. Well, we're calling it a day. We need to get some rest here. So we're going to go back to the virus hotel, and we'll meet you guys tomorrow. Or is it the other way? Okay, this is what happens. After 10 o'clock, the virus really comes out. It really comes out. It's like it wreaks havoc. So you got to be closed by 10. And you really should be home by about 10:30 or 11. Because if you're out on the streets, man, there's the daytime virus, which is kind of like, the protesters that are peaceful. And then there's the nighttime virus where the protesters aren't so peaceful. So I guess there's a version of that nighttime virus. So you better close your business by 10 p.m. Mad Dash begins to get COVID safe certified. Oh boy, gotta go get it. Go get it.
The Citrus Heights man is bringing a lot of the Halloween spirit.
I guess this is California.
Yeah,
I don't think this is New Mexico. Coronavirus. It is New Mexico. KOAT. I think this is New Mexico. Yeah, it is. I don't know why they're talking about California.
Take a look at this massive Halloween display. Brian Pentecost and his family moved to this home on Campfire Way last month.
Oh, so he's a California guy bringing his massive Halloween display to Citrus Heights, where nobody will come to his door and get candy. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. So this is the challenge. Woman said, "I thought I was immune." Woman who started COVID-19 twice warns people to take virus seriously. Oh, there's a there. That's for sure. There is a there. It's not the there they're talking about, but there is a there. Let's see. Why don't we get out of there for just a moment? Just wanted to show you a few of those things. Just a few of those things. Let me get rid of this window here. Okay, we're back. So that's going to be the trend. The trend is we're going to open up, but the standards for reopening and participating in a so-called open society are going to be rigorous. And so the standards will be passed down and legislated through local forms of government, usually run by the county health commission or the city health commission, in conjunction with the mayor, who is following those orders and mandates. And then those rigorous standards will then be passed on to you, the client, the customer, and the consumer. And if you don't follow them, you are in big trouble, and the amount of threat and fine will no doubt increase as people begin to awaken from the trance that they're in, slowly, albeit on a consistent basis, because that is happening. People are waking up, and people are scared. Some people are scared shitless. They're scared shitless because they're caught between this idea that they might get a virus and it might kill them, or might make them really, really sick, or they will give up their life and their freedom and all the things that they have to this point really taken for granted. So they're caught between a rock and a hard spot, and fear is really the governing factor in both of those kinds of camps. And I'm sure, like, for some people, like, it's really fucking them up. Either one of those realities is kind of fucking them up on the inside. I'd hate to be in a body like that, to be honest with you. For me, I would say my informed ignorance is slightly blissful. And roll the dice, and you read about these stories where, he was an anti-mask person, or he was anti-COVID. He died from it, right? Well, that's life, That's life. You roll the dice, and that's the way it is. And if it happens, it happens. And so you just got to burn. You got to light the candle And you got to let it burn, man. So figure out, what did Neil Young say? It's better to burn out than it is to rust. I would agree with that. I would totally agree with that. At the same time, I'm not here to sow the seeds of my own self-destruction, nor do I recommend that. So it's a fine line. It's a fine line between self-preservation and illumination. And you're the one that knows where that is. You got to find your own edge. Find your own edge. A lot to talk about. So I want to get to the trouble in Transnistria. Not quite yet. I'm going to save that for later in the show, because I did have a conversation this morning with the Transnistrian. I reached out to the country, well, the unrecognized country of Transnistria, and I can tell you that they're in much more trouble than they even realize. Much more trouble. And that really the world needs to come to the aid of Transnistria. It's become very apparent to me. So I'm going to play that conversation a little bit later in what I believe to be the solutions to help the unrecognized country of Transnistria, whose borders are now closed, by the way. So not only are they unrecognized, but they have closed borders. What is really going on in Transnistria? Transnistria should be called Transnistria, renamed Transnistria. So I'll play that conversation a little bit later in the show. See, in radio and media, that's what's called a tease. So you can hang on for a little while, say, oh, gee, I wonder what Robert learned about Transnistria. Called a tease. Yes, I know. It's effective, though. It is effective. I'll keep you on for at least another 25 to 30 minutes waiting for that. So this story crossed Twitter last night. And to me, it's like, it is the absolute insanity of our time. To me, this is it. This is it. We have reached the Maginot Line, which should be called the Imaginot Line, because these politically correct calls to right the wrongs of the past are ultimately robbing us of our imagination and our creativity. And it seems as though only certain groups are suspect and susceptible to these retrograde reevaluations of societal norm. And that's what I'm looking for. Affirmation, right? Only certain groups, some groups, not so much. Certain groups, very much. So let me show you what I'm talking about. This crossed my Twitter feed last night. And it's kind of, not like, it's not that I'm hung up on this thing, right? Here we go. It's really the Daily Texan. This is the story. It says the Longhorn band will not participate in Saturday's at Texas football game after about half of its members said they wouldn't play The Eyes of Texas in an internal survey. And I'm thinking, my God. I mean, look, this is a song that's associated with the state of Texas. I've been to a UT Longhorn game, one game in my life. I'm not afraid to admit that, okay? I'm not from this state, but hey, it's their tradition. And they sing this song. Been to a lot of UT baseball games, great little stadium there. And of course, when they're doing the song, it's, they have no problem with this. Oh no, this is, but now they got a problem with the song. Because apparently, some time ago, in the distant mists of Texas history, there were a group of so-called white people who performed the song in blackface in this kind of minstrel tradition. You know, Al Jolson, that sort of thing, right? And the football team heard about it, and some guys in the football team are like, that's racist. That song is racist. So the people in the band heard the same thing. So, oh, gee, we can't play that song because it's racist. It's a racist song because a couple of people sang that song and they were wearing blackface. God, that's tainted. That is tainted. Will they ever play the song again? I mean, the Eyes of Texas, again, I'm not from here, but I do know that this is like a big deal. This song is a big deal. And it's a big deal at the football game. It's about as big a deal as the big steer that they bring out. What's his name? Bevo. I think his name is Bevo. They've had a couple of Bevos. And so tradition, theoretically, very, very important. But they're not going to sing this song because somewhere, somehow, along the way, it was associated with a group of people that maybe sang it a couple times. But that tradition apparently was not very popular and did not survive. It's called progress. Apparently, it's called progress. So the tradition of doing the song in blackface minstrel faded because people understood that, you know what, pretty offensive. But it happened a long time ago, and, you know, now we have to resurrect the crimes and misdemeanors of the past. The past is on trial. That's what's taking place. Well, if the past is on trial, then we probably need to do a pretty thorough examination of the past now, don't we? Just to make sure that we're being fair about certain things, right? Well, so what I thought would be a much better solution to this is instead of the band actually showing up and performing as a band, then, oh, that's it right here. Oh, that's the story from yesterday. That was the nug. That was the smoking nug from yesterday. That's the smoking nug from yesterday. So maybe I'll get to that. All right, so let me do this. Let me do this. I'm going to show you what my solution was to them actually singing, performing the song, right? I had a great idea, and I think that they should really consider this because I think it's really a brilliant solution to the song, to the whole idea of actually, number one, using instruments, and number two, kind of reversing the trend, right? I mean, clearly, blackface is insulting. It's it was part of the Amos and Andy and all that stuff. I get it. It was a part of American history, and one that we can move on from. It was theoretically a a kind of a form of theater coming out of kind of the burlesque sort of world. It was a form of theater generally recognized, but obviously not great. Not great. Certainly not condoning it by any stretch whatsoever. By any stretch. But I was thinking that we could reverse the trend. And in my so let me see if I can just find this. This is my solution here. This is my solution of reversing the trend. There we go. Let's start here. My solution to reversing the trend would be to, instead of wear blackface and don blackface, to do something quite different. My solution would be to wear mime face. right? So you wear mime face, and then instead of this is a Pinterest thing, they'll probably kick me out here. So instead of actually performing the song with instruments, you can mime the song, right? So now you have the mime face, and then you mime the song. You don't even have to have an instrument. You can, eyes of Texas, right? They can do the whole thing. So I thought that this would be an interesting alternative to actually doing the song. And maybe reversing the trend a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And it would be an interesting protest because you could still do the song, and but you wouldn't have to play an instrument. And the mime face has been very effective. I mean, it worked out really well for Marcel Marceau and a number of other people. David Bowie used to be a mime. You see, this is where I have a problem with the cancel culture. Like, they're just willing to cancel something, but they talk about, let's reimagine policing, let's reimagine this, let's reimagine that. Well, I'm saying, why don't you reimagine your performance with the band? Why don't you reimagine how to play the song but not play the song? And I think Mime Face would be an incredible way to do that. But you see, this is the missing ingredient. When you have like a really important dish, it's like when you have bouillabaisse, you got to have saffron. It's expensive as fuck, but if you don't have saffron, it's not really bouillabaisse. So what they have is they have the missing ingredient. The missing ingredient from their cancel culture is called imagination, or reimagine. They say reimagine this and reimagine that and reimagine. Well, I'm giving you a template to reimagine something. Will they do it? No. Not really. But I'll tell you who was really imaginative, a very imaginative group. And they were actually called the SF Mime Troupe. Very, very interesting group based out of San Francisco, right? The SF Mime Troupe based out of San Francisco. And they were very influential when it came to the kind of anarcho 60s, 1960s politics. One of the main members of the San Francisco Mime Troupe, even though they weren't mimes, by the way, that was kind of the irony and the paradox. One of the kind of really creative members of that group or troupe was a guy by the name of Peter Cohon, Cohon. You might know him as Peter Coyote, who is the voice of Ken Burns' documentaries. I think he's done a lot of stuff for NFL. I mean, the guy's got a great voice. He was in E.T., Patch Adams, Aaron Brockovich. I think he's currently on that Tom Selleck show where he plays a cop. Like, you go to the IMDb, his list of credits is quite long and impressive. Peter Coyote. He was a member of the Mime Troupe, along with Emmett Grogan, Peter Berg, and they were kind of more anarchic and mildly interesting. So I'll show you a picture of the Mime Troupe, SF Mime Troupe, just to give you an idea as to sort of what they were all about, and give you some visuals right here. Right, so they were, they're kind of crazy, wacky, anarcho people, creative, right? We're talking imagination. These people were imaginative. I mean, they would go into Golden Gate Park and 50 features of special collections, San Francisco Mime Troupe records. Now, they were kind of anarchic minstrels in a lot of ways. Very interesting, and a lot of them went on to either become authors or actors or lead civil change. Here you got Bill Graham, future rock impresario, hanging out with the Mime Troupe, right? They're legendary. These people are legendary in the annals of Haight-Ashbury in the 1960s. You don't have the Haight-Ashbury movement without the San Francisco Mime Troupe. Okay? You don't. Now, what's strange, though, is that the San Francisco Mime Troupe, also known as the Diggers, they're a little a little Blackface themselves. It's very unusual. This is a guiding vision, a conversation with Peter Berg of the San Francisco Diggers. And so he's going on and talking about the kind of anarcho sort of worker people's sort of movement. There's your Bill Graham picture right there. Some of the diggers probably getting arrested in Golden Gate Park, and guerrilla theater, which was part of their specialty. They were known as situationists, actually. And here you have them representing POWs in Golden Gate Park. So they would pierce the veil of reality, which I think is quite interesting. There's Emmett Grogan, who was a member of the Diggers and the Mime Troupe. Very interesting character. Went on to become a novelist. A Trip Without a Ticket, one of their events on taking a trip without a ticket. There we go. There's more Peter Berg, the Digger. Just going to keep scrolling through here. And this is, I believe, the birth of hate and the death of money. So they would have these rituals, very interesting, kind of high, street theater ritualism, the birth of the hate and the death of money. Again, they have a lot of imagination, rich with imagination, very imaginative people, the San Francisco Mime Troupe. This goes on and on and on and on. And the way it was, summer of 1967. They're like the heartbeat, really. Lenore Candell comes out of there. She winds up becoming sort of this, goddess of Tantra. So culturally, they leave their footprints on the culture moving forward, right? But they were actually look at that. He's getting taken right out of there. That's commitment, right? 100% free. They're into this free stuff. Free clothing, free food, free. They're the godfathers of free shit. Okay, and I'm scrolling through here. Oh, look at that, Vicky Pollock. Look how innocent she looks in 1960. Okay, so here we go. It gets a little political, a little mystical, right? And who is that? Rose Lee Patrone. Okay. Ron Phelan, he was one of the guys that ran the local newspaper there. I believe it was called the Oracle, right? Taking on a little history trip here, a little Mercury retrogradism. It's SF Poetry Bus, Police versus Diggers. Hey, that's pretty imaginate, right? Summer solstice. They're working with the energies, creative, imaginary. That's Mission Dolores, a nice little Tartarian cathedral there, even though they don't know it. Oh, looking a little Tartarian in some ways. Oh, there we go. This is, 60s. Not a bad scene, the 60s. Cable cars, rock bands, a lot of fun. Let's hit the hell with money. The death of money, the birth of the hate, and the death of money. Spirit of freedom, a lot of beats wound up in the Cafe Trieste, one of my favorite cafes. Wound up in the Digger and the Mime, SF Mime Troupe movement. A lot of poetry happening during that time. I think Michael Meade was like one of the big poets at that time. I could be wrong. They're the Diggers right there. Famous pose. Yeah. The snarling attitude of the 1960s. There is well, what's that? Oh, what's that? Scene from a minstrel show. Well, that's quite interesting. Julio Martinez, George Matthews, Willie B. Hart, Jason Mark Alexander. This is interesting, right? The SF Mime Troupe, a minstrel show, or civil rights in a Cracker Barrel. Now, look, I get what they're doing here. They're trying to be ironic. And it's a very kind of bold move on the part of the SF Mime Troupe to do a minstrel show and then talk about civil rights, right? It's very, very bold in a lot of ways. And so here we can see the minstrels. And one of the minstrels is Peter Cohan, also known as Peter Coyote. And I get it. You know, they're being imaginative, right? They're being imaginative, and they are actually singing and performing against racism, right? There you go. But in that minstrel-like tradition, and by the way, one of these people in the group does happen to be so-called Black African American. So here you go. Here are the minstrels. There's Peter. But what really tripped me out here was the fact that the music for this was done by Steve Reich. Okay, and if any of you know about Steve Reich, he's the father of minimalism. And so he did the music for this minstrel play. I actually interviewed Steve Reich one time. It was a rather interesting interview. Had I known this, though, it would have been even more interesting, because there's a song that is you guys got to see this. There's a song that Steve Reich came up with, and not just a song, but a small movie that was also associated with the performance of the minstrel play, right? And the director is Robert Nelson. And it is, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, part of the music from that actual skit. And the name of the track or the piece of music is called "Oh Dem Watermelons." "Oh Dem Watermelons." Now, it's a slightly graphic, kind of, in some ways, it's actually kind of interesting, experimental film. And this was the film that was, or the music that was done for the movie, or actually for the performance. And Robert Nelson is the director. This is from 1965. And you can see right here, right, it says Watermelons was commissioned by the San Francisco Mime Troupe as a short entertainment to be screened during intermission for its rather infamous 1965 minstrel show, Civil Rights from the Cracker Barrel, which assaulted racial stereotypes by wildly exaggerating them, as performed by mostly white performers in blackface. Yet it's okay when you wildly exaggerate something, apparently. A relative newcomer to filmmaking, the 35-year-old Nelson had just begun fooling around with the medium, mostly in collaboration with then-wife Gunvor Nelson. To make Watermelons, he drafted talent from the Mime Troupe and alma mater Mills College. We also found a young composer named Steve Reich, later known to his occasional annoyance as the father of minimalism, and thus the person to be blessed or blamed for subsequent fellow travelers, Philip Glass and John Adams. Reich's raucously repetitive choral arrangement of a Stephen Foster oldie, in which slave mourns his deceased master, adds another satirical dimension to the color visuals which direct the campus era's mood of anarchy and impudence toward the watermelon. Aiming to explode stereotypes in their symbols, the film finds watermelons used as bombs, footballs, baseballs, shooting targets, even as sensuous love objects. Watermelons are cut and pasted onto existing images, from Superman to a NASA missile, and sometimes animated there a la Terry Gilliam's Monty Python. Fruits are chased by white male hordes via the magic of reverse projection to chase them in return. Interesting. Shall we have a little look at the movie here? Just we won't see the whole thing, but it's punched up, ready to go. Here we go. "Oh Dem Watermelons," I guess a Stephen Foster tune that was reset and restructured by Steve Reich for the Mime Troupe's rendition or version, their radical satirical imaginative treatise on race relations and segregation, which was Civil Rights in a Cracker Barrel. All right, here we go.
Music by Stephen Foster and Steve Reich. Bombs by Joe.
So we're going to fast forward a little bit here. Oh, there's the watermelon, the symbol for most of this wildly experimental film. Meditates on the oblong beauty of the watermelon. Just meditate on it. Its significance to our ecosystem, our society, and cultural values, because it's about to be literally exploded. Here we go. Oh, let's go back a little bit. Oh, don't want to play that. Could be copyright. Here we go. See the football theme? Let's move forward a little bit. More watermelon, irony, paradox. I don't know about this scene, to be honest with you there. I don't know about that scene either. A little stereotypical, if you ask me. Who am I? I'm no social critic. I'm a guy who isn't even a newscaster. I'm not even impersonating a newscaster. I'm just having an opinion. You see how the watermelon is by okay, he's got the watermelon, but they don't have the watermelon. Okay, and here we go. And watermelon for them, but he's got the watermelon. I'm sure there's a very deep, profound, ironic, paradoxical statement here that I'm completely missing out on. But I'm sure Robert Nelson, Steve Reich, and the SF Mime Troupe knew exactly what they were going for here. course, you knew the kerplunk moment was coming. More kerplunk. There's your Terry Gilliam kind of stuff right there. I mean, this filmmaking, it's, oh, here's the watermelon eroticism. Making love to a watermelon. Now, if I was completely subversive and I was in college, what I would do is, if I was in a filmmaking course in college, I would present that as my movie. And I'd love to see what the professor would have to say about that film. So what's interesting is I went to Peter Coyote's Twitter account. And I was going to ask him if he had anything to say about the race relations in a Cracker Barrel and the Mime Troupe and the Blackface, and I wondered if he'd have any kind of like thoughts around the whole thing. I mean, this is what Twitter is for, obviously, and well, it's very interesting that Peter Coyote has a Twitter account that is basically locked. Like, you cannot really access it. All right. You cannot really access it. It's very difficult. Very difficult. So I can't really ask him about it. It's okay. I don't feel like I have to, but yeah, here, I'll show you right here. Right? These tweets are protected. Only approved tweets. Right here. 5 tweets. So anything related to Peter Coyote is highly protected. He is not going to let things out, but he does narrate Trump tweets. Peter Coyote narrating Trump tweets. Very interesting. Interesting stuff. But too bad I couldn't ask him about it, because essentially he's inaccessible. So I guess my point is that at a certain point, these kinds of things, like dressing up in blackface and trying to display irony and paradox as it relates to the racial conflict or the racial injustice in the United States, was acceptable if you were associated with a certain group or a certain class or a certain political affiliation. I've never heard anybody bring this up. I've never heard anybody talk about the SF Mime Troupe essentially performing in blackface. Of course, it's in the name of anti-racism. I've never heard anybody talk about Steve Reich, like, creating the soundtrack for this. And I really don't care, right? I don't really care. It's not like I want to, do a tit for tat and have a gotcha moment. But it's interesting because it always goes in one direction. It's just a note. It's just a note. That's all there is to it. That's all. But but if they did find out, right? If it did become a bigger deal, would people, say, well, you can't watch ET anymore because Peter Coyote's in it? Would that be it? Would you now no longer be able to watch Ken Burns documentaries because Peter Coyote's voice is in the Ken Burns documentaries? Or do those movies and those projects get a pass? I don't know. Nobody knows, because we're rewriting the social codes, the social ethics, social mores, just like we're rewriting restaurant codes, just like we're rewriting health codes. The codes are being overwritten now. And some codes apply and some codes don't apply. What are your thoughts here on what I'm talking about? Let's see. They should have used a cantaloupe. Don't use an eggplant. Don't use an eggplant. I'm sure he's a darling. Of course he is. He actually wrote a pretty good autobiography called Sleeping Where I Lay. Talks a lot about his time during that period. The 60s. Pretty good book, actually. Yep, Melons was my first thought. This is really strange and creepy. Well, it's the 1960s. You had to be there. Was that a penis jumping out of the watermelon? I think it might have been. I think they were playing on some kind of, Freudian theme there. Okay, so, it just crossed my path that the University of Texas will not play the Eyes of Texas because some minstrel group played it a long time ago. I came up with the idea for them to do it in mime, which I thought would be a really interesting and creative way to resolve everything, right? To resolve everything. To mime it out. You could mime the instruments, right? But not say anything. And do it for the duration of the song. Now that would be creative. That's reimagining it. And then I said, well, what about the San Francisco Mime Troupe? What would they have done? Well, I stumbled upon exactly what they did, which was have their own minstrel show and talk about racial injustice. Different times, right? Certainly different strokes for very different folks. Now, I know I want to shift the topic of conversation because there is a crisis in Transnistria. I am convinced of this now. Why have we not heard about this company, this country that has not been recognized by any other country? Why have we not heard from them? Or why has Transnistria not really reached the shores of our media? It's a very interesting question. So, of course, yesterday I played the anthem, the very rousing, inspiring anthem of Transnistria, which sounds like just about any other sort of Eastern European orchestral piece, with the lyrics of, that are championing truth, freedom, right? Honoring the land, the ancestors. So I decided that I was going to try to contact the government of Transnistria today to start an open dialogue around perhaps creating maybe a Transnistrian embassy here in Fredericksburg. That maybe the city of Fredericksburg could actually recognize Transnistria when only Ossetia and that other country recognizes it. Now remember, it is kind of in between Ukraine and Moldova. So they're sort of landlocked and bordered. And a very difficult place to be. So in my quest to speak with somebody from the Transnistrian government, I ran into a few speed bumps, a couple of barriers. First of all is language. Apparently English, not so popular in Transnistria. Russian, however, very popular. So I went through a few different departments. The only word I got was no. Called the university. Nobody at the university. However, I did find a hotel where somebody who worked at the hotel spoke English. So I'm going to play you my conversation with the Transnistrian that I spoke with this morning. A very fine young woman who did her absolute best to be able to answer my questions in as thorough a fashion as possible. Even she had no idea what the fuck I was talking about. Let me see, is this it? I think this is it. So let me play the conversation here between me and this this young woman, this hotel clerk, and Then I'll tell you why I think Transnistria is in real trouble. Here we go. Let me see if I can pop this thing up. Oh, that's not it. Hold on. It's got to find my MP3. Where my MP3 be at? By the way, calling Transnistria was an interesting. Oh, here we go. This is it. All right. Here we go. I have to kind of. I don't think I edited out the first part.
Country sounds very interesting to me, and I'd like to know more about it because there are a lot of people in the United States that are having.
Here we go. So it's loosely titled Trans Talk. Here we go. All right. Away we go.
Difficult time with the United States, and you guys seem to have a difficult time with the rest of the world recognizing you. So I was wondering if somehow people from the United States could like hook up with your country so that we could help each other out.
К сожалению, не смогу вам помочь, потому что я ничего не поняла. Так же, как и я вам сейчас говорю на русском, я не понимаю то, что вы говорите на английском.
Yeah, I think the language barrier can be overcome at some point. So there's nobody there who speaks English?
No.
No. Okay. No. All right. Well, you know, no, that's a good start. No is a good start. Yes is a better word in English than no, just to let you know. FYI. So I'm gonna try another number, okay? Just discovered your country, and I'm very interested in your country because it doesn't seem to exist, and that's very intriguing to me. And I was wondering because a lot of people in the United States are not happy with the United States, and some of us are looking for a new place to go. And I thought, well, we have people that are looking for a place to go, and then there's a country that theoretically doesn't exist. And I'm thinking this could be a great marriage between your country and some of our people. What do you think?
Excuse me. You'd like to visit our country with a group of people from USA?
What I'd like to do is have a lot of Americans move to your country so that we can help you out, and then we can have a fresh start in a new country like yourself.
Okay, we are hotel, and we can offer you to reserve some numbers, some rooms in our hotel.
I'm thinking maybe like a good start for the Americans would be maybe 3,000 people. What do you think?
We have 60 rooms.
60 rooms. Okay, that might be. We might be able to stay there for a little bit until we find where we're going to stay in your wonderful country. Can I ask you a question about passports? Do I need to have a passport to come to your country?
Of course, you need a passport, and you know that now it's Corona time, and the border is closed.
Your border is closed.
The border is closed for foreign people, and it's open only for people from our country.
So you guys are locked in, aren't you?
Our people, yes, Transnistrians, they now only outside our country, and some people from another country can visit Transnistria, but for business, if they have Transnistrian passport, but not for tourism, not for free visit. We haven't
So I've read online that a lot of Transnistrian women are brides and they go to other countries. Is that true?
Excuse me?
Like they're Transnistrian women. They wind up marrying people from other countries, you know, because of the internet. Is that true?
Okay, but our hotel is only hotel. We can reserve rooms, but we don't.
Oh, I'm not looking for a bride. I read that on the internet.
I'm very sorry, but we do only what we do. We have a hotel, and our work it depends on tourists, and
Sure.
we work only with tourists, with some clients who have a business here.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's not in our interest, and it's not in our we don't work with it.
Are you? Let me ask you a personal question. Are you married?
Yes.
Okay. If you weren't married and somebody from another country like the United States said, "Hey, I'm looking for a beautiful Transnistrian smart woman," would somebody like you be open to moving to the United States?
No.
You don't think so, huh?
Okay. I think you need some paper, newspaper or site for it. But you can. We have marketplace.
Okay.
Site.
Yeah, that's the site. Yes. Okay.
And you can do and use there some news about this, and maybe somebody would like to speak about it with you and to do something with it.
Do you? So I listened to the Transnistrian Anthem yesterday. It's very beautiful.
Okay.
The song is very beautiful about the river and honoring the people from the past. It's a very beautiful song. You know the anthem, right? The Transnistrian Anthem. You know that one, right?
Just a second.
Sure.
She's like, what the fuck's going on?
I'm sorry, we are engaged in tourism. We don't engage in marriage.
Oh no, I'm not asking about marriage or anything.
If you need a room, we can help you.
Okay, so but in order to get a room,
unfortunately, I can't help you.
Well, listen, you've been very helpful. I really appreciate your time and your ability to speak with me. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.
So a lovely Transnistrian woman who revealed to me that they're in a lockdown, that their borders are closed. Now, how can a country who does not belong to the European Union and really belongs to nobody be in a lockdown, right? How is that happening? That only Transnistrians can move about and cross the borders? Perhaps. I'm not sure. I think this is a country that is in peril. It is a country that needs to be liberated. This is a country that needs regime change. So I have some ideas, and it all depends upon who becomes president. Okay. Hear me out. If Joe Biden becomes president, God forbid, I think if we really wanted to turn this thing around, we get Victoria Nuland on speed dial, right? She flipped Ukraine like that. It's a neighbor, you know. So unfortunately, if that's a reality, I think the neocons are great at regime change. Did it before in the region, could be a done deal. And we could liberate the Transnistrians and have them, you know, really be a real country. Instead of this indefinable space where the borders are closed and nobody will recognize them. Now, if Trump wins, I have a completely different strategy. Okay. And I think this strategy is actually brilliant on so many levels. So many levels. And I'm going to reveal to you what my strategy for regime change, and more than just regime change, it would be more along the lines of nation building in Transnistria. Because, instead of Victoria Nuland is just like so, I don't know, 20th century in a lot of ways, right? Just so 20th century. There's got to be a different way and a different kind of sort of strategy involved, right? So I have a different proposal, and one that I think could be revolutionary in a completely different sort of way. Completely different sort of way. So my strategy would be to have an ambassador to Transnistria, right? And an appropriate ambassador to Transnistria. And I don't think there would be a more appropriate ambassador than Caitlyn Jenner. Why? Because Caitlyn Jenner is trans. So this could be a major coup for Trump, right? Because number one, Transnistria needs to be recognized. Number two, we send Caitlyn Jenner there, who happens to be trans. So we have theoretically the first trans diplomat setting up relations with Transnistria. Okay? I think this is just a slam fucking dunk. It is a slam dunk. So Donald Trump, if you are reelected, this is part of your vision. This is your vision. Deploy Caitlyn Jenner to Transnistria. It's a win on so many levels. So many levels. However, Biden wins, get Victoria Nuland on speed dial, and she'll wrap that thing up in about 30 days. All right, what are your thoughts about Caitlyn Jenner being the United States diplomatic envoy to Transnistria? What do you think? What do you think? Is that a fit or what? Just like we liberated Iraq and Libya. Well, I have a different, version of, Trump is into, nation building. He, according to, his latest sort of press exchanges. Anyway, and he's not above hiring people who are personal friends. He outsourced Woody Johnson to Ireland. The owner of the New York Jets is the ambassador to Ireland. So why not Caitlyn Jenner, the ambassador to Transnistria? Could we at that point call Caitlyn Jenner the transbassador? I mean, really, it fits, right? The transbassador. Anyway, I'll have more on Transnistria in the future. I'm not giving up. I hope to have a dialogue with an academic from Transnistria. I'm going to hit that university, Tiraspol State University. And maybe we can set up Tiraspol as a sister city here in Fredericksburg. Maybe that would be a start. All right. Thanks for being a part of today's show. I know it was a little lighthearted today. There's plenty of news to cover. There's the debates tonight. There's a lot of stuff going on. But I needed to have a little bit of fun and irony and paradox and keep things a bit on the lighter side and indulge my latest obsession with Transnistria. All right. Thank you, everybody. Again, Thor, happy birthday to you. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful year. Chatlandia, everybody else, big love. Use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart to stay open to what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. You're you, and bye for now.